It is 2025, and we at Q4 Impact are excited to bring you content the month of January on the theme of purpose. You will not want to miss a single one. Thanks for tuning in. Stay till the end because I have a very special announcement that you will not want to miss.
So let's say that we are in His Word and that we're wanting to keep that posture of submission and humility, but we still have no clue what our why is. How do we go about finding it, Ron?
Well, we were going to have a sign up after this episode for those of you that feel called to move to Africa. But if you're not comfortable moving to Africa, maybe you could go to Papua New Guinea. No, seriously, it's not about your why having to be something like climbing Mount Everest. There's just a few of us that do things like what Tom and Lita are doing. For the vast majority, it's looking at where you are today, and it's seeing what's in front of you, what's maybe in your own house, or who's living next door to you. It's taking whatever setting and circumstance that you're in and saying, God, what do you have for me? How can you use me to the fullest in the circumstances that I'm in? There's nothing wrong with having a dream, a big dream like that. But I know when I look back at my early days, I got saved as a 20-year-old. I was a college dropout and I had no career. And I met this beautiful girl and I proposed and she actually said yes. And we got married and started having kids. And I didn't have a job. Like I picked corn, I bucked hay, but I took where I was at and I did everything that I knew God was asking me to do, which in those days was to be a fantastic father and to try to love my wife and stay focused on my family. And then God's timing just caused my journey, added things as the weeks and months passed. As long as my heart was right, and that's where, as long as the periscope is up and we're looking for where He is, Lord, where are you? To follow Him, we have to keep our eyes on Him. Otherwise, if we turn to the side and then we turn back, He may have turned the corner and we lose sight, and that's when we can get tripped up. So that's the encouragement of this, is that ask those questions, have that seeking God first mentality in your life.
I like the story, and I love that you brought up the normalcy of living out our why. Yesterday, I actually read an article that spoke about something that they labeled faithfulness envy. And I think that we can almost substitute, for purposes of our conversation, a why envy, because I think sometimes we can envy that God-given why that we see others pursuing. And as I read on in this article, they actually referenced Paul's writing in 1 Corinthians, where he's talking about the diversity in the body and one part of the body feeling pressure or shame that it's not being as prominent as another part of the body. But this message was about being faithful to what God had placed in front of you versus envying someone else's purpose. And to your point, sometimes the why of our lives will become more prominent. It may be known by many, but more often than not, our why is lived out in obscurity where only God sees. And I think it comes down to asking ourselves, am I okay with that? Am I okay with knowing that God sees and my heart is most concerned about pleasing and glorifying Him, even if my why is merely in the mundane day-to-day tasks of mothering or whatever it is that we've been called to do?
I can't help but make this statement, and I may get in a little trouble for it, but don't count on the miraculous. God, hearing an audible voice, God bless you if that happens. but that's not often, mostly how God leads us. Tom was 45 years old with 20 years of experience, so don't think that just out of the blue, you're going to be going in one direction and then you're going to hear, some voice that tells you to turn around and go do something completely different. Mostly God's leading occurs as we're heading in a certain direction, and it makes sense in a certain way. It utilizes our experience, it utilizes our gifts, it utilizes the joy that we get or the satisfaction that we get in a particular kind of calling. I know as a younger man, at a moment in my life when my boys were young, I felt led to coach, baseball, and it became a very satisfying and wonderful opportunity to speak into the lives of young boys. And I did it for many, many years, and I have some of the neatest memories. And I have young guys that are now not young guys come up to me and said, Coach Ron, you were so encouraging to me, and I loved being on your teams. And so, that's an example. You don't have to go to Africa. You could go to your school and read a story to the kids, or work in the play yard, or it's wanting to embrace your why from a biblical perspective and apply it in every setting that you find yourself in, even to the point of going out for dinner and knowing that there's going to be a server that you're going to meet that you may have never met before. How can God use me in their lives? It reminds me of another favorite verse, Micah chapter 6, verse 8. What is it that the Lord requires of me? It's another way of saying what's my why. Here's your why. Do justly, love mercy, and walk humbly with your God, and He will guide you to serve wholeheartedly wherever you are, and He will lead you to what He's wanting to put into your life.
Thanks so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed, and if you want to listen again or check out other great content, please check out the links in the captions below. This month, the special offer I mentioned before is a copy of this amazing book on purpose that a ministry partner and dear friend has written. Marcus Costantino will speak to you about what is purpose that God has given and how to find it. For the first 100 people to go to the Q4 Impact store on our website and enter code word purpose, it will be our privilege to send you a free copy of this book. We are so committed to you finding and living out your God-given purpose, and we do hope to hear from you. See you next week.